Another day and another painfully unqualified personnel choice from President-elect Donald Trump, who announced today that his senior advisor on Arab and Middle Eastern affairs will be his daughter Tiffany's father-in-law, businessman Mossad Boulos. If it sounds like nepotism, then you haven't tuned in, because this is the second time this weekend alone that Trump packed one of his in-laws to manage U.S. relations with a key ally or a vital region. Yesterday, the president-elect tapped his daughter Ivanka's father-in-law, convicted felon Charles Kushner, as U.S. ambassador to France. But the pick sending the most shockwaves this weekend is Trump loyalist and former administration staffer Kash Patel for FBI director. And the law enforcement community has come down hard on the selection, rightfully questioning whether an unexperienced lackey with an axe to grind against Trump's supposed enemies should have the FBI at his disposal to make it happen. Joining me now is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Democrat of Texas. Congresswoman Crockett, thank you for joining us tonight. We start with Trump's pick for FBI Director, Kash Patel, who Trump floated for the job during his first administration. That idea quickly shot down by then Attorney General Bill Barr, who objected to Patel's complete lack of experience to run the Bureau. He's also a deep state conspiracist who wants to purge the FBI of Trump's perceived enemies in service to the big lie. In other words, he's like the rest of Trump's nominees. But Congresswoman, is this pick more retribution against the rule of law from Trump?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, it is interesting because Trump spent so much time trying to separate himself from Project 2025. But what we see playing out before our eyes is literally Project 2025. One of the main things that was espoused in that document is that he must have loyalists that are going to be in government. Forget whether or not they are qualified. That actually is the only qualification, is that you pray to the orange Jesus, which is known as Trump. And so that's what we have in Patel. It doesn't come down to whether or not he has any law enforcement experience. It doesn't come down to if he understands anything about the FBI. What it comes down to is a guy who was so upset because he got caught being the criminal that he is, and they had the audacity to go after him and to actually prosecute him. And now what he's deciding that he wants to do is he truly wants to weaponize the government, a claim that he continuously projected onto this administration. But here's the deal. The big question is whether or not the current FBI director is going to step down, another person that he actually put into that position, because he still has time on the clock and doesn't necessarily have to leave.
Now, let's turn to the economy, where experts have warned that Trump's promised tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods and a hike on Chinese products will hurt the economy and blow up inflation, particularly in import-reliant states like Texas, where you serve from. You've warned the American people to buckle up for economic pain under Trump's plan. But millions of Americans voted for Trump, who campaigned on these tariffs. Even if their economic pain deepens because of them, the tariffs that is, will they turn away from him now?
I have no idea, but I will say that there should definitely be some folk that decide, you know what, maybe that wasn't the best idea to either stay at home and not go and vote for Kamala Harris, or that I decided to get up and go and vote for this guy who was promising tariffs, because I have seen where people have said, well, wait a minute, I thought the tariffs just meant that the other countries were going to pay something. I didn't realize that this was going to impact me. And I think that it's important that the American people see that we saw the prime minister for Canada go and speak to him. And basically you have, you know, our friends from up north as well as our friends down south in Mexico seemingly trying to educate the guy that is run on being this great businessman. But what I try to remind people of over and over again is that this guy isn't allowed to operate a business in the state of New York because he's actually a terrible business person. And this, honestly, this idea, this ploy to throw tariffs onto everything, I don't even understand how Elon can stand for it, because his precious little Tesla, while they may be made in right here in Texas nowadays, here's the reality. The Tesla has components of it that are not made in the United States, just like almost every single thing that we have. Not to mention when we start to talk about agriculture and our food. And the reality is that this is going to impact every facet of our lives if someone doesn't get a hold of Trump and tell him to chill out on all of this pain that he's about to inflict as relates to the tariffs.
Well, as a New Yorker, I can tell you that we never thought he was a good businessman. But states across the country are bracing for Trump's promised deportation of millions of immigrants. Some are preparing to fight back. Others are already accommodating Trump, like Texas, which is home to about 1.6 million undocumented immigrants, and where Republican leaders are pumping money and resources into making the state the center of mass deportation plan. But less clear is whether those leaders have considered the economic impacts on this proposed purge on Texas, which generates billions in taxes from undocumented residents, many of whom work in the state's construction, farming, and service industries. Congresswoman, you serve on House Agricultural Committee, and you said you think Trump will drop this plan because it will hurt those sectors, farming especially. You think he's bluffing?
Yeah, listen, I think that this is a guy who has half-baked ideas, right? He gets out there, he says something, and then people go crazy and they say, yes, we like it. And he has not thought it through, right? And I think that this is another one of those half-baked ideas where he's saying, yes, I'm going to deport everybody because, you know, right now there is a fear as it relates to the base that supported him, because we know that white people overwhelmingly supported him. And so he's trying to make his base feel comfortable by saying, hey, listen, I'm going to get rid of all of these people of color. That does include the woman that is cleaning your home. That does include the people that you use as your nannies. That does include those people that you are waiting to build your custom home. I just want y'all to understand that the people that are making sure that that food that you can continue to complain about the prices of, that is in the grocery store, that they are the ones that are out there working the farm. And I think that once they say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that this may mean that somebody else got to go and work the farm because I'm not going to go send little Johnny out there. I think that once they understand truly what this means, then they'll end up pivoting or blaming it on someone else. But this is a half-baked idea that is going to cost us a lot of upfront dollars, and then it's going to cost us a lot economically.
Now, I have to ask you about this while there's time. I'm so inspired that that photo over your shoulder of Shirley Chisholm. You know, I was youth director of her campaign for president in 72. I was just 17 going to 18 years old. And she'd be very proud of you, I believe. You took issue last month. By the way, it was the 100th anniversary of her birth yesterday. You took issue last month with your House Republican colleagues referring to diversity, equity, and inclusion practices as oppression, as they promoted a bill in a markup called Dismantle DEI. On Martin Luther King holiday, the same day of the inauguration, we're having a rally and march about that in Washington. You went viral for the takedown. Still, the bill advanced the House Oversight Committee. If it becomes a law, this would effectively close all federal DEI offices and programs. Congressman, how far do they intend to go with this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no way that President Joe Biden would ever sign this into law, so they can get it out the House, they can get it out the Senate. They actually can't get it out the Senate because the Democrats still control the Senate. But this is a preview of what it looks like to have a Trump trifecta. I fully anticipate that this is the type of legislation that we will see come back in the 119th, and they will get it through the House. They potentially will get it through a Republican-controlled Senate, and I have no doubts that Donald Trump would actually sign it into law. So for everyone who is a person of color that thought that this was your guy, I just want y'all to know how they feel about you. And what they are saying right now is not only that white men are being oppressed, including my colleagues that are sitting in Congress right now because they were whining about being oppressed in that particular hearing, but you know, he has talked about reparations for white folk.
Yeah,
something that if black people even start to mention reparations, everybody wants to lose their minds. So I just want to be clear that we are flipping everything on its head. Part of this started when they decided that they did not want to teach our real history in the classrooms so that people can say, oh no, it is the white man that has been oppressed. But I had to read the literal definition of oppression because they feel as if just because there is an office that wants to promote diversity, not to promote that someone is going to have supremacy, but diversity. Right. They feel as if that is oppression anytime a person of color is being treated with equity in this country.
And Trump literally talked about reparations for whites. I might add a lot of white women businesses and others benefited from DEI. And it really was put into real fast track when the Trump-stacked Supreme Court outlawed affirmative action. Thank you for being with us. Always good to talk to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas.